But we bring in now Dr. David Chao at Pro Football Doc on Twitter. We're here in the Geico Outkick studios. Football is back, Dr. Chao, and I got to give you credit. Back in March, you said the NFL would find a way, and the NFL isn't just finding a way. So far, knock on wood, there's been almost no cases of COVID at all. Even for you, who I think a lot of people called a wild optimist about the NFL playing, their ability to control the spread of COVID has been pretty extraordinary, right? I mean, there's been almost no cases.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a trickle. I mean, they started off pitching a no-hitter. They're probably still pitching a shutout in terms of COVID, in terms of runs scored, so to speak.
Yeah.
And kudos to the NFL, and really kudos to the players, and, really shout out to the Players Association. I mean, they allowed players to be put on non-football injury if you contract COVID during the season. In the workplace, that's a work comp injury, period, if you contract COVID. And the union decided to allow the league to potentially take money out of players' mouths. And I think that sent a very important signal across the league that don't mess around, because most of the players are going to be good about this, and the few that don't want to be are going to be financially penalized. And maybe that has something to do with it. So kudos to them. No question, all the way through March, back in March, I thought they would play on time. I couldn't anticipate that they would be this good so far.
We're talking to at Pro Football Doc on Twitter. Encourage you to go follow him. Make sure that you don't miss any of his analysis, including what he's got written at Outkick right now. Von Miller, like everybody said, Von Miller is out for the season. You have a little bit of a more optimistic view in terms of potentially him being able to come back if you're a Bronco fan. Explain.
Well, the first thing is, it was actually kind of fun and interesting to try and deduce the injury he had from all the different tweets without any video. We knew it wasn't Achilles, a tendon wasn't ruptured, there was a snap and a pop. It happened on the last pass rush play. And just knowing the game of football and what Von Miller does and how he's got to get around the edge, that's where I surmise that he likely has a peroneal tendon subluxation dislocation, where the peroneal tendon on the outside of the ankle jumps out of the groove like a bicycle chain jumps off the gear, so to speak. And that can be fixed. And that recovery timeline is 3 months. So that's why I think he's going to be able to return. He hasn't even seen the specialist yet. I think he sees the specialist today, so we'll get more details. But Luis Castillo, former San Diego Charger defensive end, was kind enough to allow me to talk about it. And in 2007, he returned to play after missing 7 games. There are other NFL players that I didn't connect with that I've treated that have returned in a 3-month timeline. So that's what led to my optimism. Look, Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Mike Garafolo, all these national guys, they're awesome. Their reporting is always accurate, but they're reporting from their sources. I'm kind of looking at it from insider knowledge and analysis point of view, so a little different perspective.
We're talking with Dr. David Chao. All right, tonight's game, the Chiefs and the Texans. What should we be aware of from an injury perspective in terms of games tonight?
Yeah, and we put up an article this morning at Outkick that shows a field view, which is a graphic of where the injuries are. Now, thankfully, early season, sometimes they're lighter than usual, but there's also more unknown than usual early season. And then the injury index, which we'll compare. And the injury index shows the health, and I'm just talking health, the health of the Chiefs' running game may be a grade or so less than the health of the Texans' run defense. And that's kind of how granular we get. And other things like, Brandon Cooks is listed as questionable. There's a report this morning that there's last-minute optimism. But when you take a quadriceps muscle strain, that probably didn't just pop up on Monday with the first injury report, but probably was there during training camp. He was limited practice, did not practice, limited practice. For a speedy receiver like that to get off the line or break down his route and stop and decelerate with the quad, even if he suits up, I don't think he's going to be effective as DeAndre Hopkins' quote-unquote replacement. And so that's something that probably isn't said in the media with just this questionable. Our analysis, if you look at the field view at Outkick or at ProFootballDoc.com, has him red, as in stay away, don't think he's going to be very effective even if he does play.
From the injury index perspective, who are you more confident in? This line is out to 9 points. I think the Chiefs are favored in. Overall, looking at the rosters both ways, who's more impacted? Which one do you think feels more healthy?
A tiny bit, the Chiefs are more impacted by injury. For example, Juan Thornhill is coming off an ACL, no game status, no injury report, but there's no way he's 100%. But overall, I think the defenses on both sides are a little bit healthier than both offenses coming into the game.
There are a ton of players out there that people are worried about for fantasy or gambling-related reasons. What to you, as we get ready for Sunday and Monday, which players do you think are the biggest and most impactful uncertainties right now?
Well, there's a lot of them out there. I'm hopeful that one of them has been solved, which is Alvin Kamara, because I don't think he really had an epidural, and wrote the article, if he had an epidural, that really had me significantly concerned. I think it was an SI joint injection, so I think the concern is a lot lower on him, and he's been one of the big-name players that was in question.
Yeah, what else should we know as we roll into the NFL? Everybody's guest has got dogs swinging by to say hi this morning, so I appreciate them. Last question for you, what else is out there that I wasn't smart enough to ask you as we get ready for kickoff?
Well, remember, this is essentially the, quote, first preseason game.
Yeah.
And no players, acclimation. So worry about soft tissue, muscle injuries. Hopefully we don't get any Achilles or ACLs. But the other thing is, look for, potentially overall sloppiness, but also players getting fatigued as the game wears on. And perhaps there's going to be much more of a rotational play for a lot of different teams. And there's just going to be a lot of different things happening that we haven't seen before, including some COVID protocols that will be enacted on game day, et cetera.
Outstanding stuff, Dr. Chao. People can read you on Outkick. They can find your content lots of places, but the best place during games is for them to go follow you on Twitter at ProFootballDoc, right?
Yeah, and ProFootballDoc.com will get some videos and pre-halftime information if you're trying to make a little halftime wager, et cetera. And it's really in-game. The only injury source is ProFootballDoc.com.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Also, Pro Football Doc is working with FanDuel, as are we at Outkick. And right now, by the way, if I'm going to try to do these states off the top of my head, if you're in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Colorado, Indiana, Illinois, West Virginia, or one more that is now escaping me. There's 7 states right now where Iowa is the 7th state. If you are listening to us right now in one of those 7 states, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, or Colorado, any of those states right now, you can go to FanDuel.com/Outkick, FanDuel.com/Outkick. If the Chiefs win, you get a 25-1 payout if you're a new customer. FanDuel.com/Outkick, 25-1 payout if you are a new customer. If the Chiefs win, go there right now in those states, FanDuel.com/Outkick, the show that you're listening to. You can bet and get 25-1 on your payout if you are a new customer. FanDuel.com/Outkick. So we go to break here. Farmers is going to take us into that break.